main obstacle in our life. Some of you, many of you have heard, anyone here like me, Western? Main obstacle in our lives. So there's a saying, the idle mind, who knows how to finish it? The idle mind is whose playground? What's that? The devil's playground. The idle mind is the devil's playground. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the mind can be either your worst enemy or your best friend. And actually, the way he explains it, when we really evaluate it, it's almost everybody's worst enemy. Why? Because we're unenlightened. We're slaves to the mind and its demands rather than learning how to control the mind. So there is processes for how to control the mind. Does anyone know one of the processes for controlling the mind? Does know something?
Chanting.
Chanting is a process that helps one control the mind. Actually, mantra itself, man comes from it means manas. Manas means mind. And tra means trayate, to free the mind. So mantra, chanting mantras. Yes, very good, Shika. Anything else to control the mind? I saw a hand in the back there. Meditation, yes. Meditation are the processes to overcome the obstacles of the mind and actually fix the mind. It's very difficult to get to that place if you don't know how to control it. So we're working on that. Anything else? Any other ideas?
Focus on God all the time, but also a lot of yoga, a lot of movement.
Yes. Focusing on God, that's actually the ultimate recommendation of Bhakti Yoga, which is the topmost yoga given in Bhagavad Gita. So this is absolutely the topmost way to control the mind. Now, yoga itself can be implied. Yoga means to connect, to unite. So what are we uniting with? It is ultimately God. That is the ultimate uniting force and the highest forms of yoga. But actually, it implies overcoming the obstacles to the mind, because the mind is the very thing that's blocking you from having yoga. So we are going to learn today at least what the Bhagavad Gita says about overcoming the obstacles of the mind. So, without further ado, we're just gonna I'd like to offer my deep respects, my deep honor, my heart like flowers to all of the gurus in my life. I'm not speaking from my own learning and understanding. Actually, that's one of the obstacles of the mind, to think that we're discovering and we're getting deeper. Actually, all has been revealed. Any knowledge that you've been given is actually, it's just that. It's been given to you. You have not earned anything. Oh, I did all this research. Yes, maybe you did. But who actually was providing the actual what you researched? People who are running the internet, the authors of the works you researched about. So many things have been, it's actually all given. So knowledge actually comes, that's a fundamental obstacle that we're having. Knowledge is coming through dissension. It's not meaning, but we're of the mechanistic worldview where we are trying to always ascend and think that we can do better and do better and do better. And yes, we can make better and better endeavors, but actually it's always coming by mercy. So this is one of the fundamental teachings we have to understand. But we're going to go to 1 chapter 3, verse 39. And we're going to talk about the main obstacle and where that obstacle lies. And that obstacle will lie in the mind. So, and if you ultimately diagnose your life, you're going to see how I've been sabotaging myself my whole life. And actually, and if you have a care, and who here likes to help others? Yes, now if someone could give you a secret to, like, oh my gosh, every type of problem that any type of person has, here's the secret on how you can help them. Would that be interesting? Yes, right? That would be obvious. Anyone who actually cares about other people, but especially yourself. You know, doctor, heal thyself. If you're not healed, if you're not taking care of your own Haribol. If you're not taking care of your own ability to be healthy, how are you going to help others? Like, if someone's drowning in the water and saying, "Oh my gosh, I have to save them," but you don't know how to swim, what's the use? How will you go and save? So this is going to teach you how to swim in the material world. Teach you how to ultimately overcome. Well, not necessarily teach you. This is going to help you diagnose that there's even a problem. So a lot of times before you can recover from an ailment, you have to first diagnose, oh, there's a problem. Many times we don't even know there's a problem. And then all of a sudden, tragedy, something happens. He succumbed from this disease. I wish we caught it earlier, right? This is well known. So similarly, if you can catch this earlier in your life, you can actually overcome this obstacle and live a life free from this very intense shackle that the mind is putting on all of us. So anyhow, here is the shackle. I offer my respects to all of the gurus in my life that have been giving me this knowledge and helping me go further. I give my deep respects and gratitude to all of the Guru Varga from which this knowledge has descended down in history to be able to reach us here today. I give my deep respects to the Supreme Lord from which this knowledge is coming from and the revelation given to mankind so that we can actually make advancement and actually not be succumb to just a life filled with suffering, which is ultimately the atheist, one of the atheist dilemma, that we just suffer intensely and it just gets worse and worse until we approach death, unless we understand that there's a higher power and a higher purpose. So unless we really from the heart understand that, we are very disappointed with life, because it just gets worse and worse as the body ages. It becomes more susceptible to disease, and then everything you've ever acquired and you spent your whole life doing gets stripped away from you, one thing after another, until finally your very body gets stripped away, which is called death. But anyhow, unless we know this and we know what's the purpose of this, it's a very disturbing situation that most people don't even want to think about. Oh, I don't want to think about that. I'd like to think of positive. But actually, this is the reality of life. With life, at least here in the material world, comes death. And this is the conclusion of everybody's life. This is the final thing we all have to do. But we don't, the most, in the Mahabharata, from which the Bhagavad Gita, which we're reading today, is the Summum Bonum teaching, the topmost teaching of the whole Mahabharata. Anyone know what's the longest poem in existence? It should be pretty obvious. The Mahabharata, yeah. Wow. He's good. So yes, it's the Mahabharata. So this poem, there's a part of the poem where a great king, Yudhishthir, he was tested by an otherworldly being, a yaksha, and actually it turned out to be his divine father. Yudhishthir didn't get in this world by ordinary means. He came from a very high place. And so anyhow, his father was testing him in disguise, and he asked Yudhishthir, what is the most amazing thing? Does anyone know what he said?
I just told my mom this.
What did he say? The most amazing thing.
That everyone's going to die if they don't do anything about it?
Pretty much. I'll rephrase it to kind of what he said, but yeah, pretty much that's it. That from the moment that we're born in this world, we see death all around us. We see everybody around us dying, everything dying, but we never ever consider that's going to happen to me. Everybody in the material world never ever considers, I'm going to die. We don't think about it until it becomes blatantly obvious, when the plug's going to get pulled or the health is really severely failing. We never ever think about, oh, I have to die. What do I do about this problem? If I told you all, you're going to die tomorrow, I'm not trying to curse you or anything, but if I told you all you're going to die tomorrow, what would you do? Would you ever, would you go back to work? Would you go, Let me see, well, I got one more night at the bar, maybe.
Liquor store,
Yeah, maybe depending on what your values are. If your values are just temporary pleasure of this world, yeah, maybe I gotta go try to get lucky one more night at the bar or something like that. But it depends on what your values are. But there is an instruction manual from God to man. What is the purpose of death and what to do about this problem? Teacher, Hare Krishna. Nadia, Haribol. That's okay. So I'm talking about death. It's a sore subject for most. So anyhow, but first we have to see what is our obstacle to what's really holding us back in this world. So why don't you repeat after me? It's going to be on the screen. Yes, that's my intention. Is that good? Better? Avritam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairina kamarupena konteya dushpurena nalena cha avritam covered jnanam pure consciousness etena by this jnanina of the knower. I have to zoom out a little bit. What is it? Nitya vairina. Eternal enemy. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. Kamarupena. In the form of lust. Konteya. O son of Kunti. Dushpurena. Never to be satisfied. Analena. By the fire. Cha. Also. Translation. Repeat after me. Thus a man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Purport. It is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex. That's how we all got here. I'm seeing my little son over here. But anyone who knows, that's how babies come. That's how everything come. Everyone has come into this world, just like that. So the center of all activities is sex. And thus this material world is called Maithunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So we're going to break this down. Our desire for sex is actually our eternal enemy, because there is a fundamental issue actually with it. So, but before we talk about that, maybe Shivadas, are you good with a computer?
I can try.
Yeah, you're the MVP right now. You're gonna do it.
What do you want me to do?
You're just gonna scroll down here as we chant these prayers. You can do it with two fingers. You can do it?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna chant some prayers offering respects to the lineage of teachers. So I'm not, it's kind of trying to channel and pray to them so I don't speak. I have so much nonsense filled in my mind, and if I give you my nonsense, then you'll just go and leave here today with some nonsense. So ultimately I'm trying to beg the great personalities who've gone beyond the nonsense of their minds and don't have these nonsensical minds, and ultimately connected to God and God's mind. And so it's my hope that I can also get that gift to me so I can maybe share something that will allow us to connect to God's mind. You can chant along if you know these prayers. Yes. Take that. Very good. So, it's a little shocking, right? Sex life is it's actually what really drives most people. We don't talk about it. It's kind of like a taboo subject matter in society, but it really is what drives most people. But now it says this desire for it is our eternal enemy. That's a little like surprising. But it's the very foundation of how this world goes. No? How will a child come? How will anything come without this desire? That's actually the point. This world, it goes on by that activity. But so maybe what's some ideas? What could be wrong with sex? I don't get it. It seems to be the highest pleasure of life. Right? Actually, I was just hearing the other day, Charles Darwin, in his evolution theory, he said the driving force, he admitted this, that the driving force for why he wanted to work so hard to put out his theory was because he wanted to, him and his colleagues were sexual libertines, meaning they wanted freedom from sex life and they felt that the religious systems of the world were stifling that. So he worked so hard for this theory, even though it's actually a bogus theory. If you actually scientifically diagnose it's actually not a good theory at all. That's why it's still a theory. It's not the law of Darwin. It's his theory, and it's actually a bogus theory. But anyway, that's not what today's class is. You can research all of that yourself. But anyhow, that was his driving force. And he did a really good job of sending the whole scientific community into like further illusion and getting people away from values that actually could have been much more helpful to them. But actually, this was predicted in the Vedas. This is how this age goes, that we'll fall farther and farther into darkness of ignorance. And we will get more and more, in the more and more, falling away from the point of life. Actually, that's what sin meant. Does everyone know? That's what the word sin comes from a Greek term. I don't remember the Greek term. I'm sorry, I'm not good in Greek. But it was an archery term, and which meant to miss the mark. So all that which we consider sins are actually that which is missing the point of life. So that's why, people, everyone is so shocked by this. I don't know. Are you guys into pop culture? A lot of you are Indian here, so maybe this is just going to go right over the head. But P. Diddy, right? Who knows P. Diddy?
Yeah.
Yes, everyone's, what is a P. Diddy? No problem. If you don't know about P. Diddy, you're lucky. But because of myself, I know about P. Diddy. And so anyway, P. Diddy everyone is lambasting him, and now he's like some big target in the media and things. And people are acknowledging his very sinful life, and so look at how horrible he's did. Yeah. It's all whatever, they get caught doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
This time everybody got busted.
Everyone knew about it for years, including all of the politicians.
In Hollywood, everybody in his office.
But anyhow, it's everyone is really, oh wow, look how sinful this is. But why is it ultimately sinful? It doesn't benefit anyone, this type of activity. They're doing all kinds of crazy parties and breaking the laws with young people much younger than should be being there, and so on. I don't need to get into it. But anyway, this is actually the origin of that which is sinful, because it misses the point of life. So actually, it's mentioned in the Vedas what the point of life is, and there's what is the purpose of our soul. The soul is part and parcel of God, actually, and the purpose of any part is to serve the whole. That's the purpose of a part, like your car part. If your car part is malfunctioned and it no longer serves the car, it must be replaced. So similarly, all the little parts of God, if they don't utilize their life in service to the whole, then actually also God has a very natural system from which it's replaced, and we call that death. You missed the point again, rats. So this is like a testing. This is like a parts manufacturing place where everything's being refined and tested. And everyone has the opportunity in so many ways to hear about God. I know when I was a kid, I heard about God in so many ways. But for most of my young life, I'm not interested in that. That's crazy. The point of life is to get pleasure. I'm looking for pleasure. Little do I realize, actually, that real pleasure, that's the name of Ram, is real pleasure is actually in service to God, because that's our natural constitution. Like a fish. A fish's real pleasure is to be immersed in water. You can take the fish out of the water and on the sandy beach, but you can give it a nice female fish or a male fish, depending on the gender of the fish. Or now gender is so fluid, who knows? Whatever the fish is attracted to, you could put it next to that type of fish. But if it's not in the water, what good will it do? You can give it the finest fish food that you can find, put it next to the flopping fish. He will not care. Why? Because ultimately what really will satisfy the fish is to be in its natural position of being in the water. And you being a spirit soul in a material body, in a material world, unless you connect to the ultimate spirit, you can never be happy. That's why nobody is ever happy. That's why it said in this verse that lust is compared in the Manusmriti to like a adding fuel to a fire, and you can never put out a fire that way. Anyone ever go camping before? Yes, at the end of the night, you really have to stop putting fuel on the fire. If you don't stop putting fuel on the fire, then fire will go all night, and then if no one's watching, it could actually cause a whole huge forest fire, and it never gets satisfied. But we, in this world, we're actually insane. We think that chasing lusts, and it doesn't have to be just namely sex. Sex is the chief lust. Like, for instance, why are people striving so hard for money? Why are people striving so hard for power? Why are people striving so hard for position and all these things? Usually it's behind the scenes, it's so they'll be more prominent in sex life, that their enjoyments will be of a higher caliber. That's usually the case. But anyhow, this is... it's a fundamental illusion. It's considered sinful. Why? Because it actually misses the point of who we are. I've seen on Netflix some crazy type of documentary things where people have a romantic relationship with their car. It's odd, right? Very odd. Imagine having a romantic relationship with a car. It's very strange. So we look at that person, that's crazy. But actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, the analogy is given, who are we? What are we? This body is actually considered to be the vehicle, the chariot. The intelligence or the mind is actually said to be the reins. Let me back up. The body is the chariot. The senses of the body are the horses pulling the chariot. Your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, taste, touch, smell, and any other senses I'm missing. Those are the 5 main senses. They're pulling the chariot. Your mind is said to be the reins that are holding on to the senses. You know, all the senses, they record things in the mind. Ooh, that tasted really good. We should go eat that again. You know, you've gotten those cravings before. And then the mind is either yes. And the intelligence, you have the intelligence. It's like the driver of the chariot. The intelligence says no, bad idea, or yes, good idea. You know, like maybe some of you are on a diet plan. And you've noticed that eating a lot of ice cream has been doing things to your body that you don't like. But then there it goes in the mind again. The tongue remembers how good ice cream is, and then the mind is like, yes, ice cream. And then, but the intelligence, if it's strong, it says, no, we have to go on a diet. We're having a problem here. And it rejects what the mind puts forth. Yes, this is a part of life. Everyone has like this. Or the intelligence is weak and says, oh, okay, let's go. And actually, then we're dissatisfied, right? When we fall prey to our cravings and we eat the ice cream, and it doesn't have to be ice cream, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be bad habits that who feels happy after we do that? No, we don't feel happy. But isn't that why we did it in the first place? We thought it would give us happiness. This is the insanity, actually, of the mind. And we do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Our whole lives. Expecting a different result. Well, maybe it will make me happy this time. No. It never has made you happy, and it never will. It's impossible. You cannot put out a fire by keep putting fuel in the fire. That's not how happiness actually comes. So anyway, but this is our actually eternal enemy. We have this lust of the senses, and we keep chasing. But the chief is actually sex life. It's the chief lust. You know, this attraction man to woman is primarily how it always went. Now, who knows how it's going to go, you know. But primarily it was always man to woman attraction, woman to man, like this. And we think this will give us happiness. When I started becoming a monk, my mother was very upset. She was very, very upset. You'll never find a wife this way. Being like that, wives actually bring happiness, and husbands bring happiness. But if you ask anyone who's, I've been married now for 6-7 years, what is it, 25 years. I've been married 5 years. Me and my both are very, very aware that marriage is not the thing that brings happiness. And we're actively trying to do the thing that brings happiness, is spiritual life, in which even in marriage, yes, you can be happy. But, you know, you look 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, no married couple, they talk about, well, you know, is your marriage just as, does it make you just as happy as it once did? And most, they'll admit, we've overcome so much together, Why? Because it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. Trust me. But and even worse, marriage is actually the lawful way to do it. This is the recommendation by God on how to deal with your sexual desire. Fine, you have strong desire, no problem. Get married and work together under God. That's what marriage always was. It was two people coming together under God. Now marriage, all kinds of different ideas, of what it is. I went to a wedding actually last Saturday, my friend's wedding, and I was very pleasantly surprised how much God was at the wedding. Because most of the weddings that I've been going to of my generation, you're lucky if one mention of God is at the wedding. And to me, that's a warning that this is going to be a problem. Why will it be a problem is because unless there's a unified value system, everyone's values will change. Unless there's a unified value system, everyone's values will change. So if I like my wife because she's very beautiful, and if she likes me because I have corny jokes, or something like that, at some point, as she gets older, the beauty will fade. It's a fact. As we age, beauty is a young thing, and then it's just like a flower. It's very beautiful, but as it ages and withers, it's not so good anymore. And at some point, you must actually toss the flower away, like that. But if my toilet humor or whatever she's attracted to when she's young, as she matures in her life, she'll be like, all right, this stupid joke again, are you kidding me? And like that. And eventually the values will change. So actually, unless we have a unified value system, then we'll always, but the problem is, marriage always was the unified value system, two people coming together to serve God. But what's happened is because God has been taken out of the equation, now more people get divorced in this country than stay together, which is, me and my wife, we both have a rare situation where both of our parents actually stayed together. It's rare, actually. Both of our sets of parents stayed together. But that's usually not the case, actually. Why? Because the value systems weren't unified. Even now, me and my wife, we totally can get a divorce. It's totally possible. It's very possible. But if our value system is fixed on serving God together, then we shouldn't get a divorce. That should be the case. We'll see if that's actually what we stick to. It's a marathon. It's not a race. So, but anyhow, but this sex life actually is the very thing that's propelling us. And we think this is what gives happiness. But we're seeing now the P. Diddy in the news. He got in trouble because there was so much elaborate forms of sex life. But he is not looking very happy right now in the court cases. He's not looking very good at all, actually. Why? Because, it actually doesn't equal happiness. Why? Because it can't actually provide happiness because you are not your body. I was talking about the analogy of the person who has a romantic relationship with the car, and we all say, that's a crazy person. And yes, absolutely, that's a crazy person if they have a romantic relationship with the car. But if we think that a life filled with sex is going to give happiness, we are not too much better than the person who has the romantic relationship with the car. It cannot give happiness. Actually, it does the opposite, especially for men. If you're a man and you lose your what, I don't need to name it, but if you lose your vital essence, it dulls and dumbs down your brain. Actually, it makes you more of a fool. It actually, your body works super hard to create that type of, because it's the thing that preserves life and moves it forward. It works very hard to create this thing, and in the West at least, but also I've also heard confidentially from the Indian boys, it's also impacted. That now there's actually, it depends on how you look at the world, but there seems to be a, how do you say? I don't want to say a conspiracy because no one likes that word, but there seems to be a societal pushing towards this. Like the number one website visited are pornographic websites. And it's free. Why would they make anything free? Because there's actually a value that we're not seeing that they're getting. And actually, for men who lose this thing, it makes people very docile, actually, and just, very dull-brained and very easy to control. So that's why it's actually in the best interest of those who may want to control others that they weaken the population as much as possible. And this is actually one of the ways. It's on everything. The cigarettes, any type of cologne commercial, any type of car commercial. It's always beautiful women. Why not like a nice old lady, like a sweet old lady? Why can't she present, the newest car or something like that? Or the newest drug they want to sell you, or the newest thing. It's all like young, beautiful, mostly women, like this. And because they know sex sells. So actually this is our eternal enemy, this desire. Why is it our enemy? Because it has nothing to do with us, actually. It's not at all what we are. You're not having sex with another soul. It's not like, it's like a spiritual connection and it's like this beauty. It's actually like your body, which you're not, and their body, which they're not, identifying that we are these bodies. It's like two cars coming up into each other and, crashing and all kinds of weird thing, and thinking like, yes, that was good. But actually the soul on the inside didn't experience anything, actually. What is actually experiencing it is the mind. It's actually all mental. It's all a mental experience. But because we're all living on the platform of the mind, and we can't overcome the obstacles of the mind, we get caught in these traps, and the mind is pulled by the senses of the body, because the mind is identifying. The mind is, yes, I am this body. In the Vedas, for something to be true, it means it's always true. So, if I were to say, Gopikanta, you're, how old are you?
48.
48. So you're a 48-year-old man. Would you say, is that true?
Right now.
Yes, right now. Right now, yes, because he knows. But you're not a 48-year-old man. You're not even a man, believe it or not. You've been a man now in this body for 48 years. But who knows what you were before then? And so on. So actually, in the Vedas, they look at that which is true, that which is set to be on the eternal platform. What is always true? There's actually only one thing that's always true about us. Do we know what that is? And it can never be taken away, actually.
The Jiva part?
Yes.
Yeah, your Jiva?
It's Jivera Bahoy, Krishnara Nityadas, Krishnara Tatasta Shakti, Beta Beta Prakash.
Eternal. Das is servant.
Yes, you are. The only thing that is always true that's set about you is that you are a servant, eternal servant of God, whether you know it or not. Actually, believe it or not, all the sinners who are doing terrible things, they're actually serving God. Did you know? Judas. Everyone familiar with the Christian story? Judas betraying Jesus. Did he serve God, or did he serve Jesus, or did he not serve Jesus? He served God's plan.
Carried out his
He chose the wrong choice, but he showed us for history what not to do. He actually served the Lord. Now, it doesn't mean that Judas got a great result for that. No. But actually, everybody and all their sinful things and everything that they do are actually serving God.
demons, right?
Yes, the demons are there.
Kauravas during Mahabharata.
What's that?
The Kauravas during Mahabharata.
Kauravas?
Yeah.
Yes. God has two energies. This is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. He has his pure spiritual energy called the Chit Shakti. But then he has his material illusory energy called the what? Yes, Maya Shakti works.
Yeah.
There's another name. So, but that's I think Antaranga and Bahiranga, which are what I was looking for. Antaranga is internal, and Bahiranga is external. But anyway, the Maya Shakti, which is the illusory Shakti. God and the devil, you know, in use of the Judeo-Christian kind of theology, they put this dichotomy. There's the all-good God, and then there's the all-evil devil, and they clash and they battle. But actually, that's not the Vedic conception. The Vedic conception is that there is one truth. There is one God, and that all is created for his purpose, for his play, for his lila. Like when you have a movie, you write the hero side, and then what's the other side?
Villain.
Villain side, right? What do they call this? A protagonist and a...
Yeah.
Antagonist.
Okay. Without an antagonist, if everything's just happy and lollipops and gumdrops the whole movie, what kind of movie is this? Who knows any best-selling movies that there's no villain? There's no problem. No. So this is actually why God has created this dichotomy of good and evil, illusion versus those in truth. You know, what are they? The Jedis and I don't need to, the Dark Force, whatever, That it's why? Because it makes for a very interesting, very captivating experience. And now you get to be the hero in the movie. But which side do you choose? Arjuna chose, Krishna's trying to pump him up. This whole conversation is Krishna pumping up Arjuna to be the hero, to join the side of righteousness. But what side will you choose? Everyone has the opportunity. Actually, look around you. Look at most of your friends. Look at most of your family members. What side are they choosing? Are they choosing the illusory side where they're just trying to eat, sleep, drink, and have as much sex as possible? Because actually that's what most people are choosing. Or who's actually trying to, heroically follow all of the injunctions of God, God's recommendation? Who's actually seeking out the truth that Jesus said will set us free? Most people, the brain is dense, the mind is dense, it's clouded. They're not, but some few actually, somehow or other, come across sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha is what? Sangha means the association of a sadhu. Sadhu is one who sees the truth. And if you get so fortunate where you come across a person who sees the truth, and they show you the truth, then you can be shaken out of your stupor. You can be shaken out of your slumber. Oh my God, this is what I'm doing. Why am I doing like this? But unless you get so fortunate, then you'll continue on just as is before. Just trying to, all right, we'll try it again. Sex, food, intoxication, and rock and roll. That's going to make me happy. But it's never made anyone happy in history. And it never will make anyone happy in history. You're a spirit soul. You need spiritual things to make you happy. That's the only way you can be happy, actually. Pursuing the truth of who you are, what's really important. You actually have a rare opportunity. A very rare opportunity to have like a human birth. A dog can't do this. A cat can't do this. A plant can't do this. A bird can't do this. They're all just chasing sex life. It's the goal of every other species, is it not? I used to think it was cute, that when I see two birds and then they flap together and, they're like this, and I was like, oh, they're playing. Actually, it wasn't until I started reading this stuff, I'm like, oh, wait, no, they're doing something else. The bees, when they come together, oh, look, they're playing. No, they're doing something else. But the human beings, when they come together, what are they doing? They're not much different. Yes, we polished it up. Oh, you got to take me out to dinner first. You got to arrange the hotel, or you got to work so hard and all these things and set up, the mood. But at the end of the day, what's really most people? What's their emphasis? It's this thing, and it's actually our enemy because it's forcing us to miss the point of life. It's forcing us to miss the point of life. We're so distracted with this thing that we miss out what's really important, is discovering who you are, who God is, and what God wants from us. And if you do that, you actually can really experience pleasure. Because God is the source of pleasure. He's the source of you. All forms of pleasure, even this temporary illusory form of pleasure that we call sex. And there actually, I believe, I kid you not, there is a spiritual sex life. I'm not saying I'm enjoying the spiritual sex life because it's really not for this world. There's a reason Jesus, he compares us to be like bridegrooms who are to wait patiently and properly for the Lord and be ready at all times. This analogy is given. But anyway, I don't want to get too far into that because that's not even something we're even close to qualified for. But as of right now, we should just evaluate, what is driving me? Is it the senses, the body, the senses? Does anyone need proof in some way that you're not this body? Does anyone? Because actually in most theological understandings, we think we totally are this body. But you can see you're not this body. This body is always changing. Is it Naya? Yes, Naya. Does your body look like it did 20 years ago? No. We oftentimes wish. Actually, me 20 years ago, I was a 12-year-old boy. So I'm glad actually that my body doesn't look like it did 20 years ago. But I'm maybe not so eager for how the body will look like in 20 years. Maybe I'll look as good as Shivadas in 20 years. No guarantee though. Shivadas looks very nice in his body in 20 years from now. But that's not who we are. The body is always changing. But the you does not change. The one who's the witness, who's experiencing life, is not changing. Most people who are old, they feel just as, their consciousness feels just as like they were when they were kids. You don't, the one who's experiencing life, you don't feel that much different other than you've got maybe a rustier tool set. Oh man, I got to accomplish this task with this tool. As you get older and older and older, it's not as easy to scale the ladders, to do all these things that you once could easily do when you were younger. But actually, the person doing the work it's not a different person. It's just I gotta, when your car gets old, after a while, now I got to deal with this. I got to put it in neutral every time I start it and things like that. But the same driver is there, is it not? So this is us experiencing the body. But we put so much emphasis on how the body can try and enjoy. And as we've detailed, it never can enjoy this way. It's never actually satisfied. Has anyone ever had enough tasty food? So after this, we're going to save a meal. Is anyone? We're going to have a nice meal together. But is anyone free from the desire to continue tasting good food here? No. But you can eat so much good food and it'll taste so good. But you'll get the same urge again tomorrow. And the next day. And the next day. Same thing with sex. When you have the sex life, no one's like, all right, that was great. Maybe next year, No, then usually what happens is then, maybe tomorrow. And then if it gets really bad, maybe later today, or, and it becomes, it's never satisfied, that desire.
I love this topic because, you were saying our TV has just been everybody have sex with each other, repeat, everybody have sex with each other, repeat, and then the Kardashians
Kardashians, the sex, drugs, rock and roll. But we're getting tired of it. We're in this, like, for the first time ever in the last few months, Coachella and Red Rocks did a spiritual night where they actually had spiritual music, and American Idol had a spiritual night for the first time ever. So I feel like we're in this point where people are realizing what you're saying, like, this doesn't satisfy, this doesn't give you what you think, and like our society is like bursting. They're ready for something really different. They're realizing this is not fulfilling.
Yes. Something wonderful you've just talked about is why people actually turn to God. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that there's 4 types of people who turn to God and who are turning to spiritual life. Why? Do you know? Why do you think? Why would someone turn to God?
Not satisfied.
They're lacking.
Yes, they're suffering. These four, and actually their lacking is very accurate because they're lacking one of 3 things. They're either lacking satisfaction or they're lacking peace, meaning they're distressed, they have mental anxieties, they have all kinds of problems in their life. Then those people finally get the hint, oh God. They're lacking resources, they might not have enough wealth, they might not have enough food, they might not have enough shelter or whatever basic needs that they have. Then they turn to God. They lack, the other one is curiosity. They'd like to know, well, what's up with this thing over here, or why, they're lacking knowledge, you can say. But the best of the 4 who approach God is the person who's committed to understanding the truth. That's why Jesus said the truth shall set you free. And in regards to this, he says, knock and you shall enter, seek and you shall find, ask and you shall receive. I don't know if it was in that order, but all those 3 things, that's what Jesus was recommending. So that's actually the recommendation that one should do with one's life, is pursue the ultimate truth. Actually, Vedanta, the end of knowledge, Veda's knowledge, Anta, the end. The first question of Vedanta, or the first qualification of Vedanta is Atato Brahma Jigyasa, which is now let us pursue the absolute truth. So no one gets to the end unless that's what you're pursuing, and that's said to be the best person. So if that person who really wants to know the truth, the Lord will reveal that truth. He will reveal some quality of a sadhu to you. Here we're trying to be some level of quality of a sadhu. They're very deep sadhus. Like we were just here with Prem Prajan and Prabhu at a really nice retreat last week. And it was very clear when you got to hear from him. I don't know, who went last week? Tej, you were there. Mukunda, you were there. Madhav was there. You were there for one of the days?
Yeah.
Very good. It was very clear when you just heard from him for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, half hour. Like, wow, he knows so much. He has so much levels of truth. And he's just breaking through all of my illusions. Actually, you have to be very fortunate for that to happen to you. And it's not actually of your own doing. You can't earn, maybe you can be very humble and respectful to these personalities. But you can never earn when that type of saintly personality will enter your existence. So this is actually, this is done by good fortune. For instance, maybe Naya was staying at an Airbnb. I don't know what she thought she would expect. Probably, not expecting oh, wow. And I'm not saying that I'm a sadhu. We're trying to be, little baby sadhus at least, that it can give some level of truth to others. So that's why maybe, I hope you guys are coming to, I'm getting some truth in my life. I'm getting some benefit here. And to have your illusions dispelled is a huge benefit, actually. And that's what a sadhu does. They break the shackles of illusion. Where, maybe the person who is thinking my main goal of life was to find a sexual partner, and you're telling me that doesn't make me happy, it will blow their mind, because they were looking for that thing because that's what they thought would make them happy. But if the sadhu somehow convinces them and tells them with proof, elaborate proof, it's there. I may not be so expert in presenting it because I'm not a very, very high qualified sadhu, but it's the truth. You'll see, you can experience it. No one is ever satisfied with sex life at the end of it. No one is ever satisfied with any of the sensory engagements. Food, you always want more, or at least tomorrow you'll want more. And anything like that. You never hear like this wonderful song, like, wow, that was an amazing symphony. I'm good now for the rest of my life. The pinnacle of the ears, it's been reached. I don't need anything else now. No, like, you know, so I know when I used to listen to a lot of the radio songs, there were some songs I would just listen to on repeat. I want to hear that again. And like that, you're never satisfied with it. You're never satisfied with whatever type of mental enjoyment happens from the adventures you see in your favorite TV show or your favorite movie and things like that. When the show ends, you're like, oh my God, now what do I do with my life? Right? Am I the only one that's happened to? Yes. Right? So this is, but actually the pursuit of God is never ending, because God is infinite, actually. And it only gets sweeter and sweeter. It's ever fresh. You'll always be able to discover more and more about the Lord. Even, we chant the same thing over and over again, like for years on end, the same song. You can do it in so many varieties of ways, but the same exact words over and over and over again. Actually, like, that would be crazy if it didn't have some benefit. But it clearly does have a benefit. Why would people do the same thing over and over again? You could try it, try just chanting Coca-Cola over and over again. By the end of the day, oh my God, I never want to talk of Coca-Cola ever again. Why? Because there's no like transcendental benefit. But the name of God is holy. The personality, it's not different from God. It's addressing that spirit, that ultimate great spiritual personality, from which the whole purpose of life is discovering the relationship. It's not to, the materialists or the mechanistic thinkers of history, like say Charles Darwin, their purpose of life was sex. They were overcome by this eternal enemy. It's ultimately an illusion. They didn't understand reality. Why? Because they had, we're very limited in how we can perceive reality. We're very limited. Anyone who's arrogant enough to to have very strong opinions in life. There's so many opinionated people, but if you have really strong opinions, it's a good chance that you're an illusion. And you take so much stock in what your tiny mind can conceive of. Even though modern science has even proven it. You can perceive next to 0% of reality. Just think about what a telescope can see. Think about what a microscope can see. Now think about what your eyes can see. What percentage of that is it? Of the greatest of those technologies, the number is next to 0%. There's all kinds of sound technologies that can take in all kinds of elaborate decibels of sound that the human ear can't detect. But we take so much, I heard this on the news. I saw this, and that, and we form so many like really strong opinions of things, but we're really taking in so little of reality. And we get so caught up in these things, and we want to talk and gossip, and did you see what this guy did, and this politician, or this guy over in Russia, he's so bad, and this guy, what's P. Diddy, this guy over here, but it's all like, really, who cares? What does this have to do with reality? But what's God doing? This is what Bhagavad Gita is. What is God saying? It's the song of God. That's what Bhagavad Gita is. It's the song of God. This was one verse of a 700 verse portion of a 48,000 verse, the longest poem in history, the Mahabharata. And it's all poem. It's avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavarina kamarupena konteya dushpurena nalena cha. And then it goes on 700 verses. That's the Bhagavad Gita. In beautiful poetry. It could be understood if you knew Sanskrit. We don't understand Sanskrit, so we have to break everything down. But all this thing, so anyway, my job and my goal is that is to inspire you towards a higher reality. If you happen to be of the illusory thought process that sex will make you happy, that money will make you happy, that anything of this world will make you happy. We could happily talk about it. If you have any questions, you raise your hand. But I'm here to tell you that it's impossible. Trust me, I spent the large portion of my life trying. Still, every once in a while, something comes up in my head, like, well, maybe if I do like this, and I still try, and then usually I feel the results, like, oh no, that was a mistake. So like this, these things won't actually give you... Nihir, I'm so happy to see you, by the way. Nihir's looking very good. But these things don't make us happy. Serving God will make you happy because that's what you are. You are part and parcel of God. Any good part of anything serves the whole. And if it's not serving the whole, it's not a very good part. So you usually get rid of it. And actually God has a very natural process of getting rid of those things, and that's called death. But anyone who lives a wholesome spiritual life, the great prophets and sages and saints and the Messiah, they say that you have an eternal position. You're a good part. Come, we'll use you for eternity. So that's possible, actually. But who is actually striving for that? There's 4 levels of people in this material world. There's actually 5 levels. But the 5th person, they usually don't stay in the material world for very long. Because that's like the perfected devotee or the great sage or the saint. And they come, they teach something, and then they're out of here. They don't belong to this world anymore. They've realized the highest nature. But the 4 people progressing to that is there's the immoral atheist, the atheist who they're so deluded that they think that doing all kinds of sinful and, no matter what, their whole emphasis on happiness, well, all atheists, what they value for happiness is temporary pleasures of this world. They don't know anything other. They don't have a higher taste for anything that could be happy. So like if you've only eaten ramen noodles your whole life, you might enjoy ramen noodles. But as soon as you've had some like high quality, like good food, usually I don't eat ramen noodles. My mother, when I was a kid, we grew up in an Italian family, not like Shivadas Italian, he comes fresh from Italy, but we grew up in an Italian family, and so everyone around us, they would eat like SpaghettiOs and things like that, and my mother was disgusted. Why? Because she made real Italian sauce, real gravy. She knows what it really is like. So she's like, you're not getting that, but come on, we want SpaghettiOs. Just get out of here with these SpaghettiOs. Nonsense, right? But if all you ever had was SpaghettiOs, yeah, it's pretty good. If you've never had that really good pasta with the really good gravy and all that stuff, you'd think, yeah, SpaghettiOs are great. So similarly, the atheists, because they've never had a taste of spiritual pleasure, they can't even fathom what that tastes like. No, I like my sex. I like my good tasting food. I like this, that, and the other thing. And they, they'll do anything to get it. And all the great demons of history were atheists because they will do any immoral thing to do. They don't realize that God is tallying everything, that you reap what you sow. They don't understand that. They're so blinded by this enemy of lust that they think, no matter what, I have to achieve that. Like Ravan stealing Sita, not realizing his life is running short. Like P. Diddy doing all these things with the young girls and all this trafficking and things that he was doing. But eventually when you get caught doing all these things, your pleasure is cut short. And we're seeing now, he's very sad in the courtroom, weeping and things like that. But yes, when you live a life doing these things, this is what happens. So this is the basis level of a person. They're an immoral atheist. They think pleasure is the summum bonum of life. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, like that. Then there's the moral atheist. They're a little bit more intelligent. Actually, Buddhist philosophy would fall into this, where they think, no, you dumb immoral atheist. This is never going to get you happy. Actually, if we all cooperate together, we can be a lot happier. If you serve your neighbor, if you do right, you follow a value system, we can all be a lot happier. We can cooperate and we can work together and everyone can be happier. But the problem with the moral atheist, even though they follow levels of morality, still the end of the day, it's their own pleasure that's driving them. So they're thinking, well, but what will happen is if they actually, at some point, if it's tussles between, they don't believe in karma, they don't believe in, like a chastising agent of God, So ultimately what happens is they, sometimes turn into immoral atheists if they have to choose between the pleasure of themselves or the pleasure of the whole, they'll choose, well, no, I got to go with this. And then they fall into immoral activities. But anyway, it's much better than being an immoral atheist. But then, even better than that, is someone who understands the reality of God. That God does exist. That what you do, there's a divine justice to life. That God doesn't just cause chaos. It's not like some chaotic thing. Now, the problem with a lot of religions nowadays is they do kind of say, well, God's pretty chaotic. Like in all Judeo-Christian religions, it's very difficult for them to answer, well, what about the babies? Why did Nihir was born so healthy? Even my son has been born so healthy. But why is this baby? Why does he have bone cancer? Why is he dying? Does anyone know what could answer that question?
Previous birth.
Yes.
He was a bad person.
You don't have to be so aggressive with that. But yes, that's karma is the only law that could answer the chaotic God theory. Why is God so chaotic? Actually, it's the only thing that makes sense for why anything is the way it is in this world. But, and actually in the Bible it is mentioned, like Jesus admits that John the Baptist is a reincarnated Elijah. He straight up says it, that this is Elijah, which implies that he was Elijah in the past and now he's John the Baptist now in this incarnation, which means reincarnation. But it's not so much understood in the Judeo-Christian levels. But, they have their own explanations and they do believe in God and they're moral. Because they understand that God will punish. If we do bad, God will punish. So we should follow God's laws. But at some point, though, you could say limitation is that this is also in Bhaktivinoda, not to steal. This is in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Shikshamrita. He brings this out. And also, Prem Prayojan Prabhu last weekend, he detailed this in such detail that it's like so fresh in my mind. So I'm sharing it. But the moral theist, they believe in God and they try to do good, but they ultimately believe like, okay, well, we believe in God, we're saved, and I don't have to do anything else. Just believe, that's okay. And just do good. Just do good. But actually what the Bhagavad Gita is recommending is to go beyond this. Not just to be a moral person and not just to believe in God. What the Bhagavad Gita is recommending is to become what's called a sadhaka. And a sadhaka is one who actively intensely endeavors to purify themselves, realizing that yes, I believe in God and I can try to do good, but actually they have the realization that I'm actually not so good. When I actually evaluate my life, I'm seeking pleasure here, I'm doing this, that, and the other thing, and I'm not ultimately in a good spot, which is why I'm receiving so many reactions and tests and trials in life, and I'm suffering so much. So I must purify. And how can I purify? There are processes. One of the processes is to chant the names of God, to call upon God regularly, to study the words of God, we are doing right now, to hear from others who know something about God. This is called sadhu sangha. So the people from Rochester did a very good thing today. It's a shame that you guys came just to see me, or not just to see me, you came for so many reasons. But I'm the person that somehow is here for you to hear. There's much better when we have a nice guest. But No problem. This is what you get. So just try and be grateful. But they did a really good thing actually by coming and spending their Sunday to hear a spiritual program. You know, this is actually this is what we should do with our life. We should make endeavors to purify ourselves. Make endeavors to get better. Not just think, oh well, when I die, as long as I'm nice and I believe in God, it's going to be fine. It might be fine in some level, but just fine. It's not going to give you the highest goal. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yeyatamam prapadyante tamstathaiva bhajamyaham. Meaning, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Meaning, if you intensely go towards God, He's going to intensely go towards you. If you just think, oh, I'll lackadaisically appreciate God, then He'll just lackadaisically appreciate you. Okay, no problem. I won't give you a hell for a life. No problem. Here, you can try again in the human beings or something like this. But Bhagavad Gita is recommended, be a sadhaka. Actually make an intense endeavor for God in all of your practices. Don't just, I believe in God and then I'll go do whatever I want to do. You know, but I believe, I'll be nice, I'll even help out, I'll do this, that, and the other thing. You know, you can give a donation sometimes, or I could do this. I helped the homeless guy in the street. Yesterday I had to, it was an awkward situation, but I had to drive one of the Airbnbs to a homeless shelter. I don't know, she used her last money to rent an Airbnb, and I was like, oh God. So anyway, but I had to take her there. But I don't think, oh, that's good enough for me. I don't need to do anything else for the day. No, Bhagavad Gita is actually recommending that we cultivate a lifestyle in which we're always thinking of God, because that is the reality. When you break down everything, whether you have a mechanistic point of view or an idealistic point of view, thinking that your mind is the summum bonum of reality, at the bottom of everything you actually find God. Of everything. You know, that's why with this Higgs boson particle accelerator, they're the top scientists in the world. What are they looking for? The God particle. What is the foundation of everything? In the Vedas, they're also saying the Brahman or the spirit is the foundation of everything. And we find actually the personality of God is behind everything. So why should we not actively seek, how can I be in better standing, better relationship? That's what Bhagavad Gita is leading us. This fourth stage, to be a sadhaka, someone who is endeavoring intensely for God. So here, that's what we're presenting. Different things, we sing different songs, we read different scriptures, we chant the names of God regularly, both in song in unison together, and also privately. We have our own personal meditation that we can chant this mantra to remind ourselves of God, the ultimate summum bonum of reality, and to make an endeavor towards God. And then we strive to hear from personalities who are more deeply connected to God than ourselves. This is actually a very important process, which is, if you do find somebody who sees the truth, or has at least a higher level of truth than you, available to them than you have, there's steps in the Bhagavad Gita that you should make. Does anyone know what they are? There's a nice verse in the fourth verse of Bhagavad Gita. Or fourth chapter, 34th verse. And it goes, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. And what that means is, if you want to understand that knowledge, or that from that person who has that truth, if you want to understand, is that something interesting to anyone, that you'd like to understand the higher truths of life? Raise your hand if you, yes, I would like to understand. Okay, I see nods. Okay, this is the verse that teaches you how to understand. So if you'd like to understand, what is the first thing you should do is pranipatena. You should humbly go before them, and you should hear from them. But offer your respects, be very proper before them, very humble before them. And then the next thing is pariprashnena. You should actually inquire. This is very important. A lot of times we miss this whole point. But pariprashnena, we should actually ask questions. And what type of questions? Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. You ask a guru these this thing. What is the ultimate good for my life? This is the question that you should ask a sadhu. What is the ultimate good for my life? What is for my topmost good in life? And guess what? They know, so they can tell you. Or maybe you have to test whether they know. Now, sadhu, shastra, and guru should all be in alignment. So if you come across a shastra like Bhagavad Gita, the sadhu's advice should be able to be found somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita. They're not just speaking out of their butt. Yes, the best thing for you is to give me $100,000. And, like this. That's, well, can you show me some scriptural proof or something like that? No, just trust me. This is not a good sadhu. This is not a real sadhu. This is a cheater. But if you do find a real sadhu who is, and what's the quality of a sadhu? Shabde parichanishnatam. It means that they are fully conversant in the topmost, the transcendental words or the scriptures. They're fully conversant. They could tell you the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. They can tell you the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even the essence of the Bible, the Quran. They can tell you all of the essence of all of the great scriptures of the world. This is actually a sadhu. This is a saintly person. They're very conversant and familiar with this. And then also they have these two qualities as well. Brahmanyu pashamashraya. They take shelter in Brahman. They take shelter in the Spirit, in God. And they actually are completely upashamashraya. Upashama means they're completely detached from the material world. They're not addicted to money. They're not addicted to sex. They're not addicted to all of these vices that we're so addicted to in this world. So if they have these qualities, then this is a bona fide sadhu. You should hear. So then you should pariprashnena. You should ask them questions. This is actually proper activity. If you want to actually benefit, this is what you have to do. Ask them, what is my ultimate good? And then ultimately, when they dispel your doubts, which they can, if they're a bona fide sadhu, they'll be able to help you and dispel your doubts, or at least direct you to someone who can. And then, sevaya, you should serve them in some way. There could be so many ways. Like so many people do seva here. Tej is always bringing so many vegetables from which we're cooking the feast with, and rice and so many things. So many people are bringing so many things. So many people are leaving donations so we can continue to pay the bills and do what we need to do to host these programs and so on. But there's so many things like that. But anyhow, this is what a sadhaka should do. They should find sadhus who can help them. And then they should take that advice and follow certain principles that the sadhus are giving. Like having a set program in their life. How can you connect to God more in your life? Everything that we do is meant to enhance the experience of how you can connect to God. Especially calling out the names of God. And if you need one thing that you can do, everyone can chant this mantra. You can chant the names of God. You can sing it any which way, whatever you're doing in life. But don't think that's just good enough. Well, all right, I got my mantra now and I don't need to do anything else, and I'll continue running my liquor store or this, that, and the other thing. And, that's all. Life's perfection is there. It is, but keep going. Keep going. Keep making advancement. And see how you can test it. It is scientific. By spiritualizing your life, by calling out to the Lord more and hearing His instructions in the scriptures, by hearing from saintly persons who are familiar with this, then you actually you'll feel much better actually, personally, and you'll want to keep going, and you'll want to make advancement. So anyway, I'll end here. Is there any question or anything, clarification, comment, correction? Maybe I said something nonsense. Okay, you all want to be sadhakas now? Yes. Shika, you're ready. Okay. So we'll give everyone a prescription of all the things you now can add into your life. One prescription is you could read Bhagavad Gita as it is. If you haven't read Bhagavad Gita, you can read Bhagavad Gita. And another thing is, if you haven't chanted the names of God, in your life you can add this Maha Mantra. This will be very beneficial. and actually is giving you a deep connection with God, and so on. You could join us if you're local. We have programs designed every day that we can do certain activities that connect us to God. So we're here doing this every day, and we open up our space so you can come and also do it. It doesn't have to be done alone, nor should it be done alone. It's not something, nor should it be done something, well, I have online. I can do everything online. This is actually not what Sankirtan is. Sankirtan is glorifying the Lord, San, in a group, with others. Yes, ideally with those more advanced than yourself. That may not always be available, but those more advanced, they want us to have mercy on others and to show others as well. And actually, I found this in my life. One of the most purifying things for me was starting to teach those who don't know as much as I do. Because I found that I have to behave better because now they're looking at me. And so I started doing things I wouldn't have normally done because then I had people looking towards me. So anyway, there's many things. Can we maybe spend the last 5 minutes before the feast is ready? We can maybe put a little bit more heart and soul into the chanting, and try and leave with a spiritual impression. Yes.
I love what you shared because I think a lot of people, especially our modern day Christians, like the Bible in the New Testament literally says all these things can be taken from you, and he doesn't mean like material, like money, like he means that peace of God, the presence, all the spiritual things we get. And like I think so many people today forget, like, you know, they lose sight of that, especially in some of these Christian churches and religions. Like all these things can be taken from you if you don't keep pressing into God, keep doing everything you just said. Like God literally says that Jesus in the Bible says all these things will be taken from you if you don't do those things, and it's just
If you don't use it, you lose it.
in my version, like our modern Christianity is like the worst example of forgetting that. Like like we gotta keep pressing, we gotta keep seeking, we gotta keep looking. Like everything you just said, I just love that.
Yes. This is the whole point. And you see, actually, if you study the life of Jesus, I mean, Jesus was missing from the Bible for 18 years, which was the largest portion of his life. But interestingly enough, you see actually across India, Persia, and Tibet that there were records of a Jewish saint appearing at the age of 14 and leaving at 28. And he did so many interesting things there if you actually study these things. And his message was so universal. What he was coming back and not changing the law, but actually fulfilling the law. But there's one law. There's really only one religion, and that's service to God. And so, so many, because we're operating on the platform of the mind, we pervert that. And so many people who form different sects and religions, they focus on certain things, and many times they'll distort and lose the whole point. And so, yes, you may notice that you may gather with different groups that something definitely feels missing, like something is off here. And because a lot of times it's just an interpretation of what was said rather than the actual core fundamental message, which is why we have what's called a parampara. Parampara means a disciplic succession, meaning that these empowered saintly personalities, it comes in succession, and it's given to that saint, and then he gives it to another saint. And if it gets broken, somehow or other it comes to another saint, and they restore that same message. And there's a lineage, where, in a lot of other traditions, they might find that, all right, well, Jesus said this, but, it's not being preserved in lineage, and now it's just their interpretation of what Jesus said. Or usually also we have the conditioned soul has the tendency to cheat, meaning we kind of skew things towards what we want it to be. When I first started reading Bhagavad Gita, I was really shocked at how much I was doing that. And then when I actually read this commentary that we give here, the As It Is version, and I was seeing the whole point of the As It Is was so you don't skew it. And his commentary is so thorough in showing you that, nope, whatever you were skewing it towards, that's not what it is. So, this is, that's very astute of you to realize, yes, much of what's happening here in different forms of Christianity, but it's happening in Judaism and Islam, in also, let's call this Christianity. This is Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but you see this in many facets of Gaudiya Vaishnavism as well, where there's, less direct presentations of this thing. And it may be skewed towards something that benefits them instead, or something like that. So, or they think benefits them, but actually does not benefit them at all. So anyhow, the best thing we could do is actually just focus on ourselves and be as authentic as possible and pray for mercy. And in that, the Lord actually, He will reveal that source of truth to us. And it may come in a completely different package than we were thinking. That's happened many times in my life, where I had so many preconceived ideas of what a guru was going to look like in my life. And the gurus or the teachers, for instance, they would call Jesus rabbi. Rabbi means like guru, like a teacher, a master. The teachers that the Lord has brought to my life always looked way different than what I thought it was, and it came in a much different package than I thought. So, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Okay, we'll chant for a few minutes. How are we? Are they ready? Do you know?